Think about the times you've set a goal only to feel this constant, nagging need to be in control of every step. It's as though there's an invisible weight, this subtle voice whispering that you have to manage every detail, or else what? Failure, embarrassment. But you see, the funny thing about that weight, that voice, is that it's not truly you. It's your ego creating this illusion that without its constant vigilance, things will just fall apart. Yet here's a paradox: the more you try to control everything, the more elusive true satisfaction becomes. The tighter you grip, the less you hold. Consider what happens when we let that ego take the reins. Life starts to feel like a balancing act on a very narrow beam. Our gaze is fixed straight ahead, too fearful to look down lest we stumble. But in doing so, we're blinded to the world around us, to the possibilities, to the beauty in the uncertainty of our own journey. The irony is, when you release the ego's need for control, you don't actually fall. In fact, you experience freedom real. Expansive freedom that can only arise when you stop clinging so tightly. Letting go of this false control isn't about passivity, it's about surrendering to a greater flow. The river doesn't control its path, it simply flows in harmony with the landscape around it, gracefully moving over stones, around bends, and through forests. It trusts the landscape, allowing itself to be part of a larger story. And in the same way, when we loosen our grip on the need for control, we open ourselves to the unknown, to the unexpected, and to the possibility that something greater than our own plans might guide us somewhere we never thought possible. Now, this might sound like an invitation to stop caring about your dreams, but it's quite the opposite. When you let go of the ego's version of control, you actually become more present, more capable of listening to the quiet nudges of intuition and inspiration that often get drowned out by that inner voice telling you to control, 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 control. It's a shift from micromanaging life to participating in it fully. You still make choices, you still take action, but there's a lightness to it, a willingness to follow where life leads rather than force it down a specific path. And often that's where our most profound experiences, our most meaningful achievements arise. You may wonder if this release of control leaves you adrift, but what actually happens is that you find a different kind of stability, a stability rooted in trust, in your own capacity to respond to whatever comes, without the need to have it all figured out. This shift allows you to live in a way that's spacious, adaptable, and most of all open. And it's in that openness that your true dreams emerge, untethered by the restrictions the ego would place on them. So recognize this illusion of control for what it is, a mirage. It's not about never making plans, but about understanding that real fulfillment can't be held in a tight fist. When you let go, you don't lose control, you gain a world of possibilities. And remember, a dream truly worth pursuing doesn't ask for a stranglehold, it asks for your trust. Let's look at how the ego loves to place limitations on what's possible. The ego tells you, I'll go this far, but no further. I'll take this risk, but not that one. I'll dare to dream, but only as long as it feels safe. The ego likes certainty, comfort, and boundaries. It wants to keep things predictable, familiar. But here's the irony: the very act of playing it safe, of holding back, becomes the wall that keeps us from reaching what lies on the other side of our comfort zone. Imagine you're standing in front of a door that's slightly ajar. The light coming from the other side is mesmerizing. It calls to you full of possibility, but you hesitate. Your ego says, stay here. You know this room, it's safe here. You might even start to rationalize, thinking, maybe what's behind that door isn't all that different from what I already have, and so we stay put. Yet deep down, there's that part of us that senses we're meant for something beyond the walls we've built for ourselves. The moment you start to loosen the grip of the ego, You realize that the boundaries it has set are not as rigid as you thought. They're flexible, permeable. But breaking through them doesn't require force, it requires curiosity, a gentle willingness to lean into the unknown, even if you feel fear or doubt. It's the act of saying, yes, I feel uncertain, but I'll take a step forward anyway. And that step, however small, is where growth happens, where you discover your true potential. Now, the ego will try to convince you that stepping beyond its comfort zone is a reckless risk. But let me suggest a different perspective. What if the real risk is staying where you are? What if, by clinging to your comfort zone, you're risking the loss of growth, of meaning, of purpose? Life becomes vibrant and alive when you step beyond the borders the ego has constructed, not when you stay sheltered inside of them. True strength doesn't come from rigidly sticking to what's familiar. It's cultivated when you face the unknown with a sense of openness, an inner assurance that whatever comes, you will be able to respond. And here's the key: responding to life doesn't require knowing exactly what will happen. It simply asks for a willingness to engage with whatever arises. There's an energy, a vitality, that emerges when you allow yourself to move freely, untethered from the ego's strict limitations. You start to see life not as something to be feared or controlled, but as a partner in your journey. Think of it this way: the dreams that are truly meaningful often lie just beyond the boundaries of what feels comfortable. They require us to stretch, to expand, to leave behind the security of what we already know. But it's in that stretch where we find the true gift, where we uncover strengths and talents we never knew we had. So when you feel the pull to stay safe, to stick to what you know, recognize that's simply the ego trying to protect itself. And ask yourself, is this comfort worth the cost of the dreams waiting for me beyond it? Step by step, risk by risk, you move closer to what's real, what's fulfilling. And that's how you let your dreams breathe, grow, and come to life. At the end of the day, remember this: what you truly seek is often on the other side of comfort. Embrace the unknown, that's where you'll find yourself. Let's consider how much energy the ego uses in the need to prove something, how it strives to build up an image of success, strength, or worthiness. The ego tends to think, if I can be seen a certain way, then I will be respected, admired, even loved. But think about it, that's a conditional kind of love based on maintaining a polished image rather than being authentic. And the irony is, the more effort we put into building up that image, the more isolated we often feel, because we're hiding behind a mask, disconnected from what's real. The ego loves to set up conditions, doesn't it? It says, when I achieve this, then I'll finally be enough, or when I have that, then I'll be happy. It's always projecting fulfillment into the future, making it seem just out of reach. But in doing so, it creates an endless chase, a feeling that we're never quite there. We build these conditions around our happiness and success, but in the process we miss out on the joy that's right here, right now. What if we could free ourselves from this constant drive to prove something? Imagine letting go of the need to prove your worth through achievement or external validation. Imagine letting yourself feel complete without needing to stack up achievements like trophies. When we drop the ego's agenda, we find that there's a different kind of strength, a quiet, straight strength that comes from simply being at ease with ourselves, knowing that we are enough just as we are. When we're not burdened by the need to prove, something amazing happens. We become open, more receptive. We're not so caught up in defending an image, so we're free to explore, to grow, to be curious. The world starts to feel less like a competitive arena and more like a place where we can genuinely connect with others and share our true selves. And in that sharing, we discover a sense of freedom and peace, because we're no longer playing the game of comparison and competition. Consider this: the strongest people aren't necessarily those who achieve the most or stand out the most. The strongest people are often those who are quietly confident, who know their worth but don't feel the need to shout it from the rooftops. They move through life with a sense of calm, of assurance, because they are centered, grounded in something beyond the ego's endless need for validation. They are strong because they are free from the chains of shoulds and musts, and instead they live from a place of authenticity. And this isn't just a peaceful way to live, it's also incredibly powerful. When you don't need the world to see you a certain way, you become untouchable in a sense. You are no longer reactive to others' opinions, no longer driven by the need for approval. Instead, you're guided by a quiet clarity, an inner strength that doesn't rise and fall based on external judgments or expectations. So ask yourself, what would life feel like if you let go of the need to prove anything? How much lighter would you feel if you allowed yourself to simply be, trusting that who you are is already enough? This isn't about diminishing ambition or settling for less. It's about shifting our focus from external validation to inner peace, from achievement to authenticity. In doing so, we discover that the strength we've been searching for has been within us all along. When we release the ego's need to prove, we come back to a place of genuine strength, one that doesn't need applause or approval, one that exists simply because we are at ease with who we are. And then that, my friends, is the kind of strength that can weather any storm. Let's talk about something that often goes unnoticed but subtly undermines our peace of mind, the ego's deep attachment to control. The ego loves to believe it has power over everything. It wants to steer, to predict, to manage outcomes. But in its attempts to hold the reins tightly, it creates a kind of tension that fills our lives with worry, anxiety, and an underlying fear of the unknown. We see it in small ways, don't we? We worry about how a conversation might go, rehearsing responses to every possible scenario. We get anxious about what others think of us, trying to influence their perceptions by adjusting how we present ourselves. The ego is tirelessly working to secure a sense of certainty, stability, and approval from others. But the truth is, life's mystery can't be controlled, and neither can people's minds. Think about it, isn't life more like a river, flowing along its own natural course? And while we may paddle and steer to a degree, we can't change the direction of the current. Trying to impose our will on life's current is exhausting, isn't it? Imagine trying to swim upstream all the time. We exhaust ourselves without really getting anywhere. When we surrender the illusion of control, we're not giving up our agency or ambition, but we're releasing the mental strain, the endless grip that takes us out of the present. Now, surrender isn't weakness. It doesn't mean letting go of all goals or direction. Rather, it's about understanding that there's a vast difference between setting a course and trying to control the entire journey. Surrender allows us to set an intention and then release our attachment to how exactly it all unfolds. It's about trusting that things can unfold in ways we can't predict, and often for the better. We become more resilient, more adaptive, and ironically, more at ease when we accept that we can't control everything. Imagine living with this sense of ease, a life where you aren't anxiously clutching at control, but are fully present in each moment, responding rather than reacting. Instead of trying to shape every situation or person to fit our desires, we flow with what arises, engaging with life rather than resisting it. When we let go of control, we make room for discovery, for spontaneity, for a kind of natural wisdom that flows from being open to the present. This doesn't mean we don't face challenges or have goals, but our approach to them changes. When things don't go according to plan, we're no longer devastated or frustrated because we understand that our well-being isn't dependent on a particular outcome. We can still act, still make decisions, but we're flexible, able to adjust as the path twists and turns. There's a beautiful freedom in this one that the ego, with all its gripping and clinging, can never experience. It's the freedom of realizing that life doesn't need to conform to our plans for us to be at peace. We're free to engage fully without needing to control the outcome. In that freedom, we find a sense of joy, a kind of playfulness, because we're not holding on to rigid expectations. We're here, open to life as it is. So what happens when we release the need to control? We step into a life that's spacious, where we can actually listen to what's unfolding around us and respond from a place of clarity rather than fear. The irony is, when we stop trying to control life, we start to feel a deeper connection to it. We're no longer fighting the flow, we're moving with it. And that's where the real strength lies, not in manipulating or forcing life into a particular shape, but in flowing with it, adapting and responding with ease. That's the kind of strength that holds up, that doesn't falter when things don't go as planned. So ask yourself, what would happen if you let go, even just a little bit, of that tight grip of control? How would it feel to trust that you can face life as it is and be strong enough to embrace whatever it brings? True strength lies not in control, but in the freedom to let go. Let's explore something that feels almost paradoxical, but is profoundly true. True strength arises not from resistance, but from openness. In our minds, we often think strength means being unyielding, standing firm against anything that challenges us. But in reality, the greatest strength isn't found in rigidity, but in flexibility, in our capacity to adapt and be open to life's changing circumstances. Consider this: imagine a tree in a storm. The trees that resist the wind, the ones that try to hold themselves against its power, often break. But the ones that are flexible, the ones that bend and sway with the wind, these are the trees that survive. They don't resist nature, they move with it. They yield, but they do not break. In the same way, our greatest resilience comes when we are able to adapt to what comes our way, rather than resisting it with all our might. So, how does this apply to our everyday lives? Many of us have goals, dreams, and ideals, and we're passionate about them. And that's beautiful. But sometimes we become so attached to achieving them exactly as we imagine that we end up resisting anything that doesn't fit our plan. We become inflexible, unwilling to adjust or change course. But life, as we all know, rarely goes precisely according to plan. Obstacles arise, unexpected events throw us off balance. If we're rigid in our approach, we end up struggling against life, wasting energy trying to force things to go the way we want. Instead, what if we were to embrace an attitude of openness? What if we could see the obstacles not as threats but as invitations to adjust, to learn, to grow? When we are open, we're not less committed to our path, we're just less fixed in our approach. We become like water, flowing around obstacles rather than breaking against them. This openness allows us to respond creatively, to see new opportunities, to be flexible without losing sight of what matters to us. There's a deep wisdom in being open, a wisdom that recognizes that life has its own rhythm, its own currents, and sometimes what we think we need isn't actually what serves us best. When we hold our plans too tightly, we miss out on the gifts that unexpected detours bring. But when we're open, life surprises us. It leads us to places we hadn't anticipated, but places that enrich us in ways we couldn't have planned. In this openness, we're also more resilient to loss and change. When we're not desperately clinging to any one outcome, we're free to adapt when life shifts. We find a peace in knowing that our strength lies not in our control over circumstances, but in our capacity to respond to them however they unfold. We begin to see that every change, every challenge is part of a larger flow, and when we allow ourselves to be a part of that flow, we're no longer knocked off balance by each wave. Instead, we ride with them, finding strength and stability within ourselves, not from the world around us. Now think about what it means to be open with others. When we stop clinging to our views, when we're willing to listen, to consider new perspectives, we're building relationships that are rooted in real strength. It's not about always being right, but about being willing to learn, to understand, to be changed. That takes strength. It takes courage to step into each moment without demanding it look a certain way, to meet each person without needing them to act a certain way. But that openness allows life to connect us in ways that are profound and real. Ultimately, openness is the strength of freedom. Freedom from rigid expectations, freedom from the need to control, freedom from the fear of change. It's the strength that lets us embrace life fully, knowing that we have the resilience to adapt, to grow, and to flow with whatever comes. So if you take one thing away today, let it be this: true strength isn't in how much you can resist, but in how openly you can embrace. Let's explore the idea of awareness, that clear sense of simply being. Now, awareness itself isn't complicated, but we often overlook it because we're so accustomed to moving in constant pursuit of something: success, knowledge, approval. We've built lives around this momentum, around doing, striving, achieving. Yet in doing so, we often overlook the simplest and most essential experience of all, the experience of being aware. Think about this right here, right now. You're listening, thinking, perceiving. But who is it that's aware of all this? This isn't about intellectualizing, analyzing, or labeling. It's just about noticing that there is an awareness, a silent witness, that's present in all of your experiences. It's the same awareness that has been with you through every joy, every struggle, every moment in your life. When you're truly still, you can sense it as a kind of pure presence, untouched by thought, untouched by emotion. Now, this awareness isn't bound by the labels we give ourselves or by the stories we tell ourselves. It's beyond those ideas, untouched by whatever identity we cling to. And this is important because when we get wrapped up in the stories and labels, we start to limit ourselves. We start believing we're just this person with this history, this personality, these limitations. We start to believe we're only what we can see or define. But in moments of pure awareness, you see that you're not confined by any of it. There's a freedom in that, a sense that goes beyond words. And when we really sit with this, we see how much we are tied up in our ego, this idea of who we think we are and who we think we need to be. Our minds constantly assess, judge, compare, worry, and all of it becomes this endless loop of trying to defend or build up this idea of ourselves. But this awareness, this deep sense of presence, isn't concerned with all that. It doesn't judge, doesn't label, it simply observes. It's a space where all those mental movements come and go, but none of them define you. It's like watching clouds in the sky. Thoughts, emotions, worries, they're like clouds. They drift in, change shapes, and eventually they drift away. But the sky itself, it remains untouched. It doesn't get tangled up in the clouds. It simply lets them pass. And this awareness we're talking about is just like that sky, constant, stable, unaffected by the passing of thoughts and feelings. When you truly experience this, there's a profound relief in it. Suddenly, you don't have to hold on to every thought as if it defines you. You don't have to take every worry as if it's permanent. You see that each of these is just a passing cloud in the vast sky of your awareness. Now, many of us think of awareness as just another thing to do, another task on our list, another way to improve ourselves. But real awareness isn't about adding or improving. It's about letting go of all the things that cloud our perception. It's about seeing ourselves clearly as we are without needing to add or subtract anything. And in that clarity we find peace. We stop struggling to be something more or something different. We realize we're already complete, already whole. It's like this: imagine you're trying to capture your reflection in a pond. If the water is disturbed, the reflection is blurry and distorted. But when the water is still, the reflection becomes clear, sharp, and true. In the same way, when our minds are constantly stirred up with worries, comparisons, or judgments, our sense of self becomes distorted. But when we allow ourselves to just be, when we stop identifying with every thought, every emotion, that's when we begin to see ourselves as we truly are. So awareness isn't something you have to work at, it's something you allow. You simply notice with a kind of gentle curiosity that there is this presence, this quiet observer within you. And when you do, there's a great ease that comes with it, a sense of resting in what's real, in what doesn't come and go. And that's where our true strength lies, in this awareness that is beyond the changes, beyond the thoughts, beyond the shifting scenes of life. Remember this, you are not the passing thoughts or the changing feelings. You are the awareness within which they all arise. And when you understand this, truly understand it, you are no longer pulled by every thought, every emotion. You're free to just be. Now let's take a moment to explore the concept of interconnectedness. It's a beautiful and profound realization, one that can transform how we perceive ourselves and our place in the world. We often move through life feeling like isolated islands, separate from everyone and everything around us. Our thoughts tell us we are distinct entities, defined by our experiences, our desires, our struggles. But the truth is far richer and deeper than that. Imagine for a moment the vastness of the ocean. Each wave that crashes against the shore seems unique, doesn't it? Each wave has its own shape, its own path, but they are all part of the same ocean. Just like those waves, we may appear different from one another on the surface. But at our core, we are made of the same essence. We are part of a larger whole, connected in ways that transcend our individual identities. Think about how we come into this world. From the moment we are born, we are interwoven with the lives of others. Our family, our friends, our communities, they all contribute to who we are. And beyond that, the air we breathe, the food we eat, the resources we use, they all come from this shared environment. There's a beauty in recognizing that our existence is not an isolated phenomenon. We are part of a vast web of life, constantly interacting with one another and the world around us. This understanding can be incredibly liberating. When we grasp that we are interconnected, it becomes clear that our actions have a ripple effect. How we treat others, how we engage with the world, creates waves that extend far beyond ourselves. Each smile, each act of kindness can brighten someone else's day, and that positivity can travel outwards, touching countless lives. Conversely, the same is true for negativity. It can also spread, creating a chain of discontent. Recognizing this interconnectedness allows us to choose our actions more wisely, knowing they resonate beyond our immediate sphere. Moreover, this connection isn't just about our relationships with others, it extends to our relationship with ourselves. Often we are our own harshest critics. We judge ourselves based on societal standards or personal expectations, creating an inner conflict that can be quite debilitating. But when we recognize that our struggles are part of a shared human experience, we can begin to approach ourselves with compassion. Our fears, our doubts, our ambitions, they are not solely ours. They echo the struggles of countless others who have walked this path before us. This realization fosters a sense of empathy, both towards ourselves and those around us. When we feel interconnected, we begin to dissolve the barriers that our ego creates. Ego thrives on separation. It constantly compares, competes, and seeks validation. It tells us that we must be better, faster, stronger. But when we embrace the idea of interconnectedness, we shift our focus from competition to collaboration. We start to see that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. This shift can lead to a more fulfilling life, one one where we support each other rather than tear each other down. In this interconnected dance of life, we also find support in the knowledge that we are not alone in our challenges. Life can be tough, and we all face moments of doubt or despair. But when we understand that everyone, at some point, has experienced these feelings, it can lessen the weight we carry. We can lean into each other, share our stories, and find comfort in our shared humanity. This communal experience fosters resilience, reminding us that we can rise together. So how do we cultivate this awareness of interconnectedness in our daily lives? It begins with mindfulness, taking a moment to pause, to observe, to appreciate the life flowing around us. It could be as simple as recognizing the beauty of nature, feeling the warmth of the sun, or appreciating the laughter of a friend. Each of these moments reminds us that we are part of a greater whole. Additionally, let's practice gratitude. When we acknowledge the myriad of connections that sustain us, our relationships, our environment, the simple act of being alive, we open our hearts to a deeper appreciation for life itself. Gratitude shifts our perspective, allowing us to see the abundance in our lives rather than focusing on what's lacking. In conclusion, recognizing our interconnectedness offers us a profound sense of belonging and purpose. We are not isolated beings wandering aimlessly. We are part of a magnificent tapestry of life, where every thread plays a vital role. As you navigate through your days, remember that your actions, your thoughts, and your very essence ripple through the world. Embrace this connection, nurture it, and let it guide you towards a life of compassion, understanding, and joy. The beauty of existence lies not in isolation, but in our shared experience. In this realization, we find not only strength, but also the true essence of being alive. Let's take a moment to consider the idea of presence. In a world filled with distractions and incessant noise, the ability to be present, to truly inhabit this moment, is a profound skill that can transform our experience of life. We often find ourselves either regretting the past or worrying about the future, drifting through life like leaves caught in the wind. But what if we could ground ourselves in the here and now? What if we could truly experience each moment as it unfolds? Being present doesn't just mean being physically in a place, it means immersing ourselves fully in our experiences. It's about engaging our senses and allowing ourselves to feel, see, and hear what is around us without the filters of judgment or expectation. Imagine for a moment walking in a beautiful park. The sun shines down and the breeze rustles the leaves. Instead of simply walking past these sensations, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and notice the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sweet scent of blooming flowers, the laughter of children playing nearby. When you engage with your surroundings in this way, you awaken a deeper appreciation for the richness of life itself. But let's be honest, being present can be challenging. Our minds are often cluttered with worries about what comes next, what we need to accomplish, how we should feel, or what others think of us. This mental chatter pulls us away from the present, causing us to miss out on the beauty of our experiences. The irony is that in striving to control our futures, we often neglect the only moment we truly have, the present moment. So how do we cultivate this presence? One effective way is through mindfulness practices. These can take many forms, from meditation to simply being aware of our breathing. When we meditate, we train our minds to focus on the here and now, allowing thoughts to come and go without clinging to them. Over time, this practice helps us to return to the present more easily, even in the midst of daily chaos. Another way to foster presence is to slow down. We live in a fast-paced world where speed and efficiency are often prized above all else. But what if we intentionally chose to slow down? Instead of rushing through our meals, for example, we could savor each bite, experiencing the flavors and textures. In doing so, we transform a mundane activity into a moment of joy and appreciation. When we slow down, we allow ourselves to connect more deeply with our experiences and the people around us. Now, let's consider how being present impacts our relationships. When we engage fully with others, we create space for genuine connection. Think about a conversation with a friend. If your mind is elsewhere, you may miss subtle cues, the emotions behind their words, or even the laughter that could lead to deeper understanding. But when you are truly present, you listen more intently. You respond with empathy and compassion, and you foster a sense of belonging. These moments of connection not only enrich our lives, but also create a ripple effect of positivity in the world around us. There's also a deeper spiritual aspect to presence. When we anchor ourselves in the present moment, we tap into something greater than ourselves. We become more attuned to the interconnectedness of all things. Life is not just a series of events to be checked off a list. It's a rich tapestry woven from our experiences, our emotions, and our interactions. By embracing presence, we cultivate a sense of wonder and awe for the world around us, opening ourselves up to the magic that exists in everyday moments. However, it's important to remember that being present is not about perfection. We will inevitably slip into distractions or find our minds wandering, and that's okay. What matters is the practice of gently guiding ourselves back, like a loving parent returning a child's attention to the task at hand. Each time we redirect our focus to the present, we strengthen our ability to remain grounded, cultivating resilience in the face of life's challenges. So, as we navigate the complexities of existence, let's make a conscious effort to embrace presence. Let's commit to engaging fully with our experiences, savoring each moment as it unfolds. In doing so, we can foster a deeper connection with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us. The beauty of life lies in its fleeting moments, and by being present, we unlock the richness that each one holds. In conclusion, presence is not just a practice. It's a way of being that transforms our perception of reality. It opens our hearts, enriches our relationships, and grounds us in the infinite possibilities of now. So breathe deeply and let the present moment wash over you. Embrace it fully, for it is in this space that life unfolds in all its beauty and wonder. Let us cherish the gift of now, for it is all we truly have. As we navigate this journey of understanding the self and the complexities of our consciousness, it's crucial to recognize the power of letting go. In our lives, we often cling to things, ideas, beliefs, possessions, even relationships, believing that they define who we are. Yet the truth is that attachment can be a significant barrier to our personal growth and true freedom. When we let go, we create space for new experiences, fresh perspectives, and deeper connections with ourselves and the world around us. Think for a moment about the nature of attachments. We form them for many reasons. Sometimes they provide us with comfort, security, or even a sense of identity. But at what cost? When we become overly attached to something, whether it's a job, a relationship, or an idea, we risk losing ourselves in the process. Our happiness becomes contingent upon external circumstances. We find ourselves trapped in a cycle of dependence, always seeking validation or fulfillment from outside sources. This constant striving can be exhausting, leading us to forget that true contentment arises from within. Let's explore the idea of identity. Many of us construct our self-worth based on what we do or what we have. I am my job or I am my possessions, but what happens when those things change? What happens when we lose a job or a relationship? If our identity is tied to these external factors, we may find ourselves adrift, searching for something to grasp onto. This is where the practice of letting go becomes essential. By releasing our attachment to our identities, we can tap into a deeper sense of self that is not bound by circumstance. Imagine instead that your identity is fluid, ever evolving. Think of it as a river constantly flowing and changing shape with the landscape. This perspective allows us to embrace the idea that we are not fixed entities, but rather dynamic beings capable of growth and transformation. Letting go of rigid definitions of ourselves opens the door to new possibilities, new dreams, and new paths. It's about trusting the process and recognizing that life is inherently unpredictable. Let's talk about fear, which often underlies our attachments. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of the unknown, these fears can be paralyzing. We cling tightly to what we know, fearing that if we let go, we will fall into a void. But here's the paradox: by holding on to these fears, we imprison ourselves. It's like trying to hold water in our hands. The tighter we grip, the more it slips away. To truly experience life, we must be willing to face our fears and let them go. Consider a moment of silence. In this space, we can acknowledge our fears without judgment. By simply observing them, we begin to see that they are just thoughts, transient, fleeting. They do not define us. When we cultivate this awareness, we create the opportunity to respond to life with openness rather than reaction. This is where courage comes in. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. When we let go of our fears and attachments, we make room for courage to flourish. Now let's reflect on the relationships we cultivate. Often we find ourselves holding on to people who no longer serve our growth. Whether it's out of nostalgia or fear of loneliness, we may cling to relationships that hinder our progress. Letting go can be painful, but it can also be liberating. It allows us to surround ourselves with those who uplift and inspire us. When we release toxic or stagnant relationships, we create space for new connections that resonate with our evolving selves. This doesn't mean we should abandon all relationships at the first sign of trouble. Instead, it's about evaluating which connections nourish us and which ones drain our energy. It's about recognizing that not every relationship is meant to last a lifetime. By practicing discernment, we honor our own journey and the journeys of others, allowing for mutual growth and understanding. The beauty of letting go is that it often leads to acceptance. When we release our attachments, we open ourselves to the present moment. Acceptance allows us to experience life as it is, rather than how we wish it to be. It teaches us to embrace uncertainty and to trust that everything is unfolding as it should. This doesn't mean we stop striving for our goals or dreams. Rather, we do so from a place of freedom and authenticity. So as we move forward, let's take a moment to reflect on what we may need to let go of in our lives. What attachments are holding us back? What fears are keeping us from embracing our true selves? By consciously choosing to release these burdens, we make room for joy, creativity, and genuine connection. In the end, letting go is an act of love, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. It's an invitation to dance with the flow of life, to trust in the natural rhythms of existence, and to celebrate the impermanence that defines our journey. Remember, it is in letting go that we can truly embrace the fullness of being. So take a deep breath and let the currents of life carry you forward, free and unencumbered. As we reach the culmination of our exploration today, it's essential to contemplate the power of resilience in the face of life's challenges. Resilience is not merely about bouncing back from adversity. It's about developing an inner strength that allows us to navigate the inevitable ups and downs of existence with grace and wisdom. Life, in all its complexity, will present us with trials, moments that test our resolve, shake our foundations, and challenge our very beliefs. It's during these times that our ability to remain resilient becomes crucial. Imagine, if you will, a tree standing tall in a storm. The winds howl, the rain may lash against its bark, but still it stands. Its roots dig deep into the earth, anchoring it firmly, allowing it to sway with the gusts rather than resist them. This is a profound metaphor for our own resilience. To cultivate this strength, we must first understand that life is not a series of obstacles to overcome, but rather a fluid journey filled with experiences that shape who we are. One fundamental aspect of resilience is our mindset. How we perceive our circumstances can dramatically influence our ability to withstand them. When we view challenges as insurmountable barriers, we can quickly become overwhelmed, feeling like victims of our circumstances. However, when we shift our perspective and see challenges as opportunities for growth and learning, we empower ourselves. We begin to understand that it's not the challenge itself, but how we respond to it that defines our experience. Take a moment to reflect on your past. Consider those times when you faced difficulties that felt impossible to navigate. Perhaps it was a personal loss, a career setback, or a relationship ending. In retrospect, many of us can see how those challenges forced us to adapt, to reevaluate our priorities, and to emerge stronger. This shift in perspective is key to fostering resilience. It's about embracing a mindset of curiosity rather than fear, seeing each experience as a teacher rather than a tormentor. As we cultivate this resilient mindset, we must also nurture our emotional well-being. Emotions are powerful forces that can either uplift us or weigh us down. When we experience adversity, it's natural to feel a spectrum of emotions: sadness, anger, frustration. Allowing ourselves to fully experience these emotions is essential. Rather than suppressing or denying them, we must acknowledge and process them. This is not a sign of weakness, but rather a profound act of strength. It's in facing our emotions that we find clarity, and from that clarity emerges resilience. Moreover, connecting with others can significantly enhance our resilience. When we face difficulties, it's easy to retreat into ourselves, believing that we must shoulder our burdens alone. Yet we are not meant to navigate this journey in isolation. Sharing our struggles with trusted friends or family can provide invaluable support and perspective. Sometimes just the act of voicing our fears can lighten the load. It reminds us that we are not alone and that our experiences resonate with others. Community fosters resilience, creating a network of support that can carry us through even the darkest of times. Another vital component of resilience is the practice of self-compassion. It's easy to be our own harshest critics, especially when we stumble or fall short of our expectations. But self-criticism only adds to our burdens, making it harder to rise again. Instead, we must learn to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would offer a friend. When we practice self-compassion, we cultivate a safe space within ourselves, a refuge where we can heal and regroup. As we strengthen our resilience, it's also crucial to cultivate adaptability. Life is unpredictable, circumstances change, and plans often go awry. Our ability to adapt to new situations is a testament to our resilience. Embracing change rather than resisting it opens us up to new possibilities. Rather than clinging to what we once knew, we learn to flow with the currents of life, trusting that we will find our way even in the midst of uncertainty. Let's also consider the role of mindfulness in fostering resilience. When we are mindful, we remain present with our experiences, observing them without judgment. This awareness allows us to step back from our emotional responses, giving us space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Mindfulness teaches us that our thoughts and feelings are not our ultimate reality. They are simply passing clouds in the vast sky of our consciousness. By cultivating this awareness, we can approach challenges with a calm and grounded perspective. As we conclude our journey today, I invite you to reflect on your own capacity for resilience. Think about the storms you've weathered in your life and the strength you discovered within yourself. Recognize that this inner strength is not a fixed trait, but a quality that can be nurtured and developed. Each challenge you face is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to expand your understanding of what it means to be resilient. Remember, resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It's about embracing it, learning from it, and ultimately transforming it into a catalyst for personal growth. As you move forward, carry with you the knowledge that you possess an inherent ability to rise above life's challenges. So, stand tall like that tree in the storm, rooted in your strength, and let the winds of change carry you toward your dreams. Embrace each moment with an open heart and a resilient spirit, for it is in this dance with life that true strength is found.